Number 2, which of the expressions below does not have the same value as 8 to the 5th divided by 8 to the 8th? Again, we're looking for not. Well, before we figure out what's not 8 to the 5th divided by 8 to the 8th, let's just figure out what this is actually simplified down to. We can expand once again. In our numerator, we have 8 times itself 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the denominator, we have 8 times itself 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I can begin to cancel out 8s in my numerator and my denominator because 8 divided by 8 equals 1. 8 divided by 8 equals 1. This 8 divided by 8 equals 1. This 8 divided by 8 equals 1. This 8 divided by 8 equals 1. And this 8 divided by 8 equals 1. So I'm left in my numerator with 1 over 8 times 8 times 8, also known as 1 over 8 to the 3rd power. Some of you may have skipped expansion, which is fine so long as you use the right rule. 8 to the 5th over 8 to the 8th. Here I have a quotient of 2 powers, so I can use the quotient rule. The quotient rule says that if the bases are the same, we can subtract the exponents, the result being 8 to the negative 3rd. Sorry about that. 8 to the negative 3rd. 8 to the negative 3rd is the same thing as 1 over 8 cubed. Remember, to resolve a negative exponent, I just rewrite as the reciprocal. Now let's take a look at our choices. Which of the expressions does not have the same value as 8 to the 5th divided by 8 to the 8th? In A, we can use the quotient rule to simplify. By subtracting 3 and 6, we'll get 8 to the negative 3rd power. This is the same thing as 1 over 8 cubed. Will not work. In B, we can actually use the product rule. The product rule tells us that if the bases are the same and we're multiplying two exponents, two exponential figures, we can add the exponents. So the base is the same, the base is the same. We're multiplying the two exponential figures. We can add our two exponents. Negative 2 plus negative 1 will yield negative 3. This won't work either. Option C, I have 1 over 8 to the negative 3rd. Well, that's certainly not 1 over 8 to the positive 3. So what I can conclude, even without too much legwork, is that C is not the same value as 8 to the 5th over 8 to the 8th. But again, let's talk about why. To resolve a negative exponent, I rewrite the number as a reciprocal. So 1 over 8 to the negative 3rd power is the same thing as 8 to the 3rd over 1, also known as simply 8 to the 3rd. 8 cubed is certainly not 8 to the negative 3, which is why this is the correct response. Really briefly, 8 cubed to the negative 1 power. To resolve this negative exponent, I can rewrite as 1 over 8 cubed. This is what we already have. It's not the not. So